Experts Association of Nigeria, Abiola Agumbiade. A pleasure having you on the program. Thank you for your time.
I can't hear anything.
Abiola, can you hear me? We'll get back to her in a bit to tell us more about
Okay,
the.
I can hear you clearly now.
Right. Thank you. I said a
Sorry.
pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Right, let's just get into it. Nigeria and many African countries are rapidly digitizing. Why is data privacy especially critical for Africa at this stage of our digital growth?
Yeah, thank you very much. Data privacy is very critical for Africa right now because, Nigeria is digitalizing very fast, as you said. And Nigeria is one of the continents in where millions of people are coming online for the very first time with their mobile phones, on fintech platform, digital IDs, even on government portals like their BVN and INN to actually register. So we're seeing an explosive growth in this regard. So there's a lot of challenge in that this data subject, the people that are actually citizens that are putting their PII onto the system, they're getting, we're seeing situations whereby there's misuse by controllers and processors, making it essentially that the data are not well safeguarded across Africa. The confidentiality of this data, integrity, the availability of this data, and also the trusted digital transformation of Africa. So we're seeing this kind of weakness among the things that we use. Luckily, there's NDPC now enforcing that controllers and processors safeguard this data. Anyone going beyond this have been fined. We've had situations where multi-choice got fined, metadata also got fined. So this is a signal that Africa and Nigeria especially is becoming matured in terms of compliance. We're seeing whereby we're having trained DPOs, data protection officers, and we're seeing there's a lot of situation whereby this compliance report are also being filed in Nigeria generally. So Africa data is also extremely valuable. We need to know that because, as they say, data is the new oil. So the data is used for a lot of things. It's used for optimization and all that. So we need to be very careful as a country and also as a continent and ensure that our data that is being extracted, they are being processed. That Nigeria and also the continent safeguard this data essentially. Thank
Right.
you.
And with the Nigeria Data Protection Act now in place, how well prepared do you think Nigerian organizations are to see it through?
Yeah, that's a big milestone for Nigeria. The data protection of 2023 is a major milestone. We moved from just policy to full legislation like a lot of African countries. So this preparedness, we're seeing it in many organizations, and then we see some that are not well prepared as well. Some organizations still lack DPOs. They don't have annual compliance reports in place to make them global standard and even African standard like countries like Kenya and South Africa. So the NDPA also has begun to mandate controllers and processors to implement digital security that will encourage on-site on rest and on transit MFA that will ensure that people that use this data, they are being processed according to this Data Protection Act. NDPC also has also put in place actions and fines so that penalties are taken into consideration. Even banks and digital platforms, they're they're actually being fined for this. So that's one of the things this act has actually brought into fruition. There's a growing data protection compliance organization also. The ecosystem has strengthened compliance support, enabling data protection impact assessment. And then there's a bridge, the bridge reporting and improving Nigerian standing with Africa data protection landscape. Regionally, Nigeria as a whole is now becoming one of the leaders in data protection alongside countries like South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and all that. So the NDPA has really strengthened Nigeria across border data transfer. We're seeing international business outsourcing also. Then we have the African Continent Free Trade Area also. The framework is also looking at Nigeria as a country that is data compliant. However, we need to also know that enforcement is not just enforcement is the real test of this. Even as the act has come out, these laws are there, but we need to make sure that implementation takes place. So enforcement is actually the key, even with the data protection law.
Right, and across Africa, if we can get back to the continent as a whole, we see rising cybercrime targeting mobile banking, fintech, and digital identity systems. You mentioned NIN and BVN and all the others when you started speaking a couple of minutes ago. What data privacy risks should governments and businesses be most concerned about?
For government, basically, government stand a risk of a large digital breach because we have the BVN and we have the NIN. Then we have mobile banks and also financial tech systems. Also, they need to also be careful of identity theft, SIM swap, frauds, and all that. So the government stand a risk of mass data subject exposure through weak digital ID system, making confidentiality, integrity, and availability of this data. They need to ensure that the control is essential and it stands national resilience. They also need to ensure that there is good subject access generally. The government needs to ensure that they must worry about the national scale of data breach in terms of our NI, yes, in terms of our NIN, basically. And then business organizations will also need to worry about regulation penalties, also lawsuits that might arise from any data breach, and also reputational damage that might happen to their organization. And then customers can also lose confidence in their business. So those are the things they need to put at the back of their mind.
Right, and as we mark the Data Privacy Week, what is your key message to Nigerians and, of course, Africans about protecting their personal data?
For me, I would like to pass the message across that your personal data is very valuable. Every time you share your phone number, ID, anything personal to you, your biometric data, your location, you're giving away your identity. So you need to ask yourself this question often: why is this data needed? How will it be used? Who is accessing my data? In that form, then you can now take control of your data. And then you need to also know your rights based on this new NDPA 2023 Act. You need to know your rights under these rights, that you have the right to be informed of what your data will be used for, the right of access, the right of erasure, and all that. As Nigerians, we need to also know that our digital footprint is important. I mean, there's every hall to put your picture, your next holiday online, but you need to know that as you do all this, there are people looking how to take those information and use it for fraudulent purposes. So we need to be careful how we put out our digital footprint out there. So Nigerians need to use strong passwords. They need to be aware of phishing messages and all that. And it's also important for Nigerians to know that they need to report every single fraud, no matter how little it is. There's the NCCC there for them to report to. The way this reporting will also help us to fight against cybercrime.
Right. I must thank you for being a part of the program today, Abiola Agunbíadé. Thank you for your time.
Much. Thank you for having me.
Elsewhere, police have detained several protesters during a march in Benin to mark